So asking, hey, what brings you in today? And then asking simply what else at the end of it starts to stack the odds in your favor as to why they can justify to themselves why they need your care. That's all selling is. They need to be able to justify for themselves that this is something they need. And we can do that by asking great questions. And if you just tell the truth, I promise you, it's going to aid your problem finding. But I call them just the truth. Listen up, take notes. There are what I call 7 truth finders. Now remember, in the previous module, we spoke about how there has to be a problem. And my belief and the way I teach it is, it's just the truth. We never add, we never inflate. But here's a couple things. To give you context, there's no place for the following sentences in an initial examination. When you say words like a little, tad, just a tiny bit, that is you minimizing. But there's also no place for massive, huge, excessive. We don't need to do that. We just say it as it is. If the patient's dropped on the left, they've dropped on the left. If they're subluxated here, they're not massively subluxated, they're just subluxated. And if you just tell the truth, I promise you, it's going to aid your problem finding. But I call them just the truth. So there's 7 truths. Number 1, first truth is this, is what I say, when you go through your initial examination, you're building a story or a case for your care. Here's what you're doing. First question is what I call true, superficial, plus what else? Now you are trying to stack things in your favor. So this will come into effect when I teach you what I mean by what else. So true, superficial is simply, what brings you in today. And here's this amazing thing. If you ask the human mind or a human questions, they will normally look for answers for it. So normally when someone says, hey, what brings you in today? What are your challenges? And they go like, I've got low back pain. You go, okay, cool. What else is happening? And you keep quiet. And they'll normally tell you. And you might go, what else is happening with that area? What else is happening even if it's not related to your spine? What else? What else? And they'll start listing things, and before you know it, if you ask what else effectively, you'll have a list of things immediately onto a better foot, because there has to be a reason for your care. Remember, there has to be a problem or multiple problems. So asking, hey, what brings you in today? And then asking simply what else at the end of it starts to stack the odds in your favor as to why they can justify to themselves why they need your care. That's all selling is. They need to be able to justify for themselves that this is something they need. And we can do that by asking great questions. That's truth number 1. True, superficial. What else? Remember, you're building a case. Subconsciously, you're stacking all the reasons. You want them to say it, for them to quantify for themselves subconsciously why they need this thing. Remember, it's going to be really difficult for you to sell anything in this type of sale, which is a diagnostic and prescriptive sale, without stacking those reasons. But this next part is just as important. Now they've stacked all those reasons why. Your job is to truly find out what is the real reason or the real thing they want to get rid of. I kind of break this up into 2 sections, right? So first of all, what's the most important thing for them to get rid of? That's most important thing to get rid of. And it's simply, there's lots of phrases that in many different sales environments that they use. So there's some common phrases that we use. Things like, hey, if I had to click my fingers, if I had to push a magic button. So after they've stacked all those reasons, you might ask them a question. So great, now of all those things, I'm not going to ignore any one thing, but if I had to just choose one, if I had to push a button and the most important thing you want to get rid of just disappeared, or if I had to just click my fingers and just one thing absolutely disappeared, which is the thing you'd most want to get rid of? Pause and wait for the answer. And it's going to be really interesting to find out what the answer is. Sometimes it's completely different to what you may have initially thought. Now, if you go down a rabbit hole and try to solve, remember, even though we're stacking in the first section, we're stacking all those reasons, that doesn't mean you want to solve all those things. You're not going to be able to solve all those things, and you may be solving a problem they don't really care about right now. Hey, let's go straight into point number 3. So point number 3 is really asking them what I call true time, and in brackets. But typically what happens is if you ask someone how long it's been there for, they might say, it's been on and off for the last 2 weeks. I call this a double barrel question. Okay? Assume what they first tell you is not the full truth. It's not the full truth. It's like when you walk into a shop and you're looking at clothes and someone says to you, hey, can I help you? And you just go, no, I'm just looking. No, that's not the full truth. Sometimes you were looking for something very specific, but you don't want to say that, and you don't want to get the salesperson there. Assume it's the same with them. They say, well, it's probably been there for the last week or two. So the first question is almost like a bait. And it's like, hey, how long has it been there for? And you're almost going to discredit whatever they say. And then we want to really find out how long it's been there for. And some ways we can do that is go like, okay, great. So it's been there for the last 2 weeks, and it's been like every 2-3 days. Is that correct? Yeah. Now, let me ask you another question. When I ask someone how long it's really been there the first time they ever remember having it, it's normally way longer than this initial phase. So let me ask you a question. When was the first time you ever remember having any headaches at all? So now what we've done is like we've isolated the first little bit, and now we've asked the question and we've just kept quiet. 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, the first time I ever remember that was, this or then or whatever. And all of a sudden what's happened is the timeline of their problem, remember, we need a problem, the timeline of the problem that they've told you first was it's been there 2 weeks. But actually when we asked the question, it may have been there 20 years. Oh, the first time ever? No, I've been having this for 20 years. Very different question. Very, very, very different problem that they verbalized, that they stacked on the scale. You can see the scale going like this now. We had all the problems. What's the most we want to get rid of? This one. How long has it been there for? 2 weeks. Oh, no, 20 years. Oh, now the need for your service goes up the more things we have on the scale. Now, how often might also be, we want to find out, for example, they might say, how often are you getting it? 2, 3. I want you to assume double barrel question. Okay, so let me ask you this. When was it at its absolute worst? How often are you getting it then? It's a great question. You can ask that many times throughout this. So what's the worst case you've ever had? Or like whatever. What is it like when it was then? How often are you getting that? Every day, all day. Wow. So all of a sudden we've had a problem that's been there for 2 weeks, go to a problem that's been there for 20 years, and when it was at its worst, it was every single day. This is what I need you to understand is whatever they say to you first, imagine there's a filter, there's a natural guarding or hiding. We want to find out the truth. This is why this is called truth finders. That's point number 3.